will be up to the Secretary of Defense and ultimately the President.
Back to the phones. Therese?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much for taking my question. I actually have three. So to start off, in my experience with the Air Force, I worked with SARC and SAPR to help survivors of sexual assault, and I saw a lot of issues within both programs. And I also spoke with a lot of survivors and got feedback from them on ways that changes could be made to help them better. That being said, my first question is, are any of the members of this team survivors? And if not, why wouldn't you find individuals who were survivors to be able to help make recommendations? That's my first question. The second one is, will they recommend a formula that will cover all the branches versus each branch having their own way to handle reports of assault? And my last question is, will they make recommendations to the military on making amends for all those survivors in the past who dealt with hazing, who, were told they were lying, who ended up getting out and, getting different various mental health problems because of how they were treated after they had reported those instances?
Well, ultimately, to take your last question first, this is about accountability for perpetrators. It is about justice and healing for survivors. And I know our commission will be looking closely at that because it's the experiences of survivors that are the foundation of our work. I would say that we will be looking closely, and I think it's an excellent question, about standardization versus what the individual branches need to do to implement these recommendations. I think that's a good question right now. I don't know the predetermined outcome of it, but I think that we sometimes have seen really great DoD policies that translate differently in implementation than perhaps was intended within the services. So I think it's a really critical question. What's the same and what's different? Where should there be standardization, and where should there need to be individual attention to the needs of the services? So I think it's a great question. I think that's exactly the kind of thing that our independent reviewers will be looking at.
Also, are any of the reviewers survivors?
Is a survivor who is serving on one of the consultative groups, and we're working closely with her now to determine the parameters of her participation for what is comfortable for her.